All right, welcome everybody to this week's episode on Laid Back the Atira Zero podcast. And with me, I have Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hey,
How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's a beautiful early afternoon out here in North Carolina. It's kind of cool. It's got some the sun coming through, but it's kind of warm as well. Just sitting here sipping a coffee. It's things are good. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm guessing the weather is much better out there than it is here in the UK now.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I bet it's absolutely freezing out there and bleak.
Yeah, man, it's freezing. But I have a friend, my friend in America used to tell me it's too hot out there compared to what you have here in the UK.
Oh, yeah. I mean, normally in the summer it kills me. Like I can't take it in the summer. I'm just like it's the humidity as well. It's the heat and the humidity, and I'm just out like sweating for like the British summer is like 1 to 2 months. Out here it's like 6 to 9 months. It's unreal.
Yeah,
there's no respite.
Yeah. So sorry before we start, Tom was actually rounding off his PhD when I started my own PhD.
Yep.
I think you were doing your postdoc at the time.
I remember you came through as a master's student originally.
Yeah. I think that's when we met and we used to play football together. I think. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But towards the end, when Tom was already done with his PhD and doing the postdoc, so that's when I started my own PhD, and yeah, we worked in the same lab. So
yep.
For a while. Yeah. So afterwards, Tom actually moved over to the US to continue his to work as a postdoc researcher. Yep. So today we'll be talking about experiences as let's put it as an international student and an international worker. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
So what do you think has been what do you think about your experience so far out there in North Carolina?
Yeah, my experience is really been that everything has just been kind of like flipped on its head, because I was expecting things to be really, really similar because of kind of cultural overlaps and the way that I grew up watching American TV. Yeah. And we all speak English and everything. There's a lot of two-way. The culture kind of imported and exported two ways between the UK and Europe and the US. And so I thought it'd be really, really similar, but it is not. It is so different over here. And having to learn the customs and things has been like it's been a massive culture shock. It really surprised me how much of a culture shock it was. But it's been a fantastic experience. It's been very enriching and opened my eyes to a whole lot of different things. It's been great. Yeah.
Okay. So before we talk about the research and the entrepreneurial side of things, what do you think? While you were in the UK studying, working, you must have met a lot of international students. Do you think moving over to the US actually helps you to understand what they were actually passing through when you were in the UK?
Definitely, absolutely, like no doubt. Like you think that it's all just going to be same thing, but in a different place, and you just have to get used to one or two small little things, but on the whole it will all be the same. It's all planet Earth, but really it is completely different, both from learning the cultural differences, and also learning the not having the support systems anymore and having to build that up from scratch. It really is, you just start from ground zero, and I didn't realize how much you really do and how much you have to start over again. Yeah. It's wild, yeah, and I definitely have a hell of a lot more sympathy for you guys, and I can empathize a lot more coming over to the UK. And this is just something I've known my whole life, and it's just kind of the regular, the norm, and it's just like, hey, you know where to get groceries, just get them from the grocery store, like normal, it's fine. And then international students would be like, which grocery store, where, why. It's sort of like, what do they sell there compared to other grocery stores? It's really like on a fundamental basis. You can't comprehend the fundamental differences unless you've lived it. So I can definitely see that you're a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. I remember the first time I arrived in the UK, and I stayed on campus at French Day, and everybody was talking about Sainsbury's. Next thing, my friend was like, because they were talking about groceries, and people were talking about Sainsbury's, Lidl, Tesco, and all, and I have no idea what to get. Do you know what? Sainsbury's is so close to me, so I'm gonna just stick to Sainsbury's. I can't be bothered. But then someone actually broke it down for me and told me Sainsbury's is more expensive than this, but it's cheaper than this. Waitrose is more expensive than this. Like, the person had to break it down for me one after the other for me to understand what I was actually looking at. But I think these are one of the things international students struggle with, and another thing they tend to struggle with is also like when you travel, the first thing that bothers you is I don't know if a lot of students are going to accept it. The first thing is loneliness, because now you are home without your family, your friends. You're trying to navigate a different environment with people you don't really know, even though some are from your country, but you don't really know them, so you're trying as much as possible to get to know them. So it's, of course, it's totally different. So when you moved to North Carolina, did you find it easy to acclimatize, like get to know the people, or did you meet a lot of British people out there, or you just did, okay, do you know what, let me get to know the other, I'm the Americans, other people. How was it? Did you find it so easy to integrate into the system?
Yeah, that's a question. It's, personally, I found it kind of easy, but that was largely because a lot of the time, a lot of people just became really excited by the way that I was from where I was from. So a lot of people would just hear me speak, and they just come up to me and be like, "Hey, you, the British guy, come talk to me." So the Americans and the North Carolinians, they love it. They really like it a lot, and I get quite a lot of. I make friends pretty easily over here, but then sometimes that can lend itself to being kind of shallow. So people get really excited. Sorry.
Why do you say?
Sorry.
Why do you say shallow?
Well, so like people just get excited by the fact that I'm British, and they only care about like the British stuff, but they don't actually really so much interest. It feels like sometimes they're not so interested in me. They just want to talk to someone that talks funny. They just kind of get there excited by the exoticness, but once it gets past the exotic, they're just like, oh, well, I'm bored now. So that was kind of weird. I found it difficult to make deeper connections as a result.
Yeah, fair. But it's something. But okay, hold on. Like, because I've had a lot of people like make jokes about the British accent, and the ladies. I'm guessing the ladies love it out there.
Say that again, sorry.
I said I've heard a lot of people on at least on TV, and they talk about the British accent and how the ladies love the British accent out there in America. Is it something like that, or is it not just the ladies, or is it about the guys as well, both the guys and the ladies?
Sorry, you keep cutting out, so I keep missing out little bits of what you're saying.
Okay, so what I'm saying is most of the time I've heard a lot of people talk about the British accent. Okay, and how the ladies, the American ladies, find it so fascinating.
Oh,
so just the ladies or the guys as well? Is it both the sexes, or is it just the ladies?
It's both, but the ladies definitely like it as well.
Huh?
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, I mean, a while back, I went into a bar to go use the ATM, and the guy was just leaning against the ATM, and I was just like, "Oh, hey, do you mind if I just use this ATM?" And he's like, "Hey, you're not from around here. Where are you from?" And just started like chatting to me, and I was just like, I just want to use the ATM, just leave me alone. Or I get it if I'm just every time I order a coffee, or every time I go buy something, like regardless of whether or not it's a man or a woman, I tend to get people just be like questioning me about it constantly, and just be like, oh, I just want to hear you talk. I'm just going to ask you questions all day because I just want to hear you talk. And I'm like, dude, I just want my coffee, man. But yeah, I mean,
did you find that annoying?
Oh, well, yes and no. Like, I would find it annoying, but I'm a pretty laid back guy, so I tend to not get annoying. But if I wasn't so laid back, I reckon I would get real annoyed with it eventually. It's frustrating when you just want to get served for something, or sometimes some people even just like, they just freeze. They don't know what to do. They just freeze, and they just stand there with just their mouth open. And I'm just like, I just, the donut is right there. Please just serve me the donut. And they just freeze up.
Yeah.
And it's just like that gets frustrating. But I mean, sometimes it's flattering and fun, especially if like I'm going out and I just want to kind of relax and maybe make new friends, and it's a good icebreaker. But I just got to make sure that it doesn't become like the defining factor of a relationship.
Yeah, of the only reason why they talk to you. Okay. So are there any similarities you think between the British culture and the American way of doing things? What do you think?
Oh, I mean,
or differences, not just similarities, but differences. What do you think? So
there's a whole lot of differences. I mean, for a start, it's impossible to comprehend how big, as a British person, it's impossible for me to comprehend how big and culturally diverse the US is. Just in between different regions. I mean, you can broadly divide the US into the Northeast, the Southeast, and the kind of the West and the Midwest, and then Texas is a bit of its own, kind of a blend of the West and the Southeast. And then with each of those regions, it's then the states vary quite a bit as well. So even within the Southeast, starting over at Virginia, going down to Florida, and then across over to Louisiana. I mean, that's all considered the Southeast, and there's a quite big kind of cultural overlap there. But then between Louisiana, Alabama, and then Virginia, there's really different. And North Carolina is a little bit in the middle, maybe a little bit more towards the kind of Virginia side of the spectrum. So I mean, it's impossible to comprehend how many differences there are. And you say, oh, well, what's different? Well, I mean, what's different depends on which state I'm in. It certainly from my experience in North Carolina, the difference has just been that people are a lot more conservative in general. What else? I mean, people are a lot more kind of generally friendly. They're a lot happier to just like stop you in the street and be like, "Hey, you, I like your shirt," or something like that, which was really startling for me.
So, do you think that kind of thing does happen in the UK, where someone will stop you and tell you, "Oh, I like your shirt"?
I mean, it depends on where you are, but in most of the UK, if someone stops you and told you that they liked your shirt or your coat, like they'd be like, "Are you about to mug me?" Like people get scared of it, for real. Like especially in London.
But now that you've mentioned mugging, there was something that fascinated me when I moved to the UK. I'll be talking to people I'll be walking on the street, and then you see people crossing over to the other side because they think you're this black dude is going to mug them. I couldn't understand why they were crossing over to the other street. Then it happened over and over and over again. Then you're asking yourself, what the hell is going on now? So like, have you ever faced something like that where people have come because maybe you are British and the person has a negative connotation and maybe like the person has a negative impression of the British people and say, okay, do you know what, he's British, so he's gonna did you ever face that kind of situation?
I haven't really so much. I feel like perhaps people are a little bit, in general, people are a little bit less trusting at like, if you're walking around at nighttime, people will tend to be like a little bit less trusting in general of like individuals walking around on their own at nighttime than in the UK, whereas, you know, everyone's always kind of feels like everyone's all busy at all the times, especially compared to where I am in quiet North Carolina. So, you know, at nighttime, I feel like people try to space out a little bit and try and stay away from me. But I guess that's just as like a man walking around at night. But in terms of actually being like a British person, not really at all. You know, I haven't experienced that. I've heard of a few people being like friends have told me that they've been in a situation where they've been talking to a group of people and they'll be like, oh yeah, this British guy's just moved over, and someone has like piped up and been like, no, I don't like the British. They have no culture, or they all have bad teeth, or something like that. But no one's ever directly said anything to me, which may just be the southern passive aggression that they have in the southeast here. They take passive aggression to another level beyond what we see in the UK, what we're normally used to, which is already big enough as it is.
but now you mentioned passive aggression. Passive aggression is something I found so normal in the UK. Or maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's a normal thing because I'm not used to that. If I have a problem with you, trust me, I'm coming to your face to tell you to fuck off. I'm sure, but here in the UK, even if you sit the person down, to fuck up, but you're trying as much as possible to have a conversation and tell the person, hey, you don't like this, to be just instead of the person to actually like tell you, hey, okay, do you know what, I didn't mean it this way, and you guys cancel it and move on. No, the person will start being so passive aggressive towards you. It's happened to me a lot of times, and I realize it's a thing here in the UK because once I feel like I'm not happy about something, I'm walking straight to you too. I don't have to shout, but we can actually see that now. I'll tell you I don't like it. But I realize whenever I do it, I think some people take it like, why are you challenging me? Like, I think it's they feel like their ego is bruised or whatever. I don't know what it is. But then they start becoming like passive aggressive towards you.
Yeah. Sometimes, people a lot of the time people won't be direct, and even more so than in the UK. I think you're right. People in the UK aren't used to being direct. They're used to just kind of like dancing around the subject rather than actually addressing the subject. So when someone actually is just coming forward and just being direct, and they may not necessarily even be doing it to be rude. In fact, they probably aren't doing it to be rude. Rather, they're doing it maybe more out of respect, to just to directly address something. People do find that uncomfortable in the UK, and a few times people just haven't actually told me what the matter is. They've just kind of rudely danced around it and be like, oh, you know, as if you would know. Oh, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't understand. And rather than just kind of like, well, what's the problem? Tell me what I wouldn't understand. Tell me what's going on. Don't just kind of dance around it.
Yeah. But have you ever had the opportunity to like walk up to someone and actually tell the person, hey man, can you actually tell me what the problem is? Have you ever tried to do that?
You know, I haven't. In the end, I've tended to just try and like figure it out myself, or just to walk away from the negativity. But you know, in general, people do tend to take that pretty well here. Eventually, you know, they may address it first of all with passive aggressiveness, but then if you actually just grasp it, you know, it's a case of, well, just tell it like it is. You know, it kind of eventually, it depends. You know, it depends on person to person. Not everyone is so passive aggressive, but yeah, eventually, if you just look at it directly and ask about it directly, people will be like, okay, well, this is what it is. Yeah. I think they become quite startled, as people in the UK might be. Yeah, but now that you just say that, like I said, like if someone is being passive aggressive towards me, I think if I'm being honest, the person is gonna be frustrated because I'm gonna ignore the hell out of you. Like I would see it, but I'll act like because I feel like if you are adult,
you should be bold enough to actually tell me what the problem is. But since you want to beat around the bush, I'm going to act as if I don't see you. Like I'm going to act so oblivious to the point that you get so annoyed. Like this guy see that I'm annoyed with him or her? Like that's how oblivious I'm gonna act. Because if you actually have that problem and you can talk and you're just being passive aggressive, being mean here and there, and you think, I'm like, and when you ignore people, it's worse. It pisses them off more. Like you act as if you don't know what you're doing, but you actually know what you're doing. Piss them off more because it's easy for you to actually open your mouth and say, "Hey, I don't really like this. I don't really like that." But since the person doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But now, have you ever have you ever been in a situation where, okay, when you were in the UK, have you ever been in a situation where you really wanted or like any of the international students, you really wanted to tell them stuff you didn't like, but you couldn't say it, and you ended up being passive aggressive towards them? Were you ever in that situation? And if you were, do you think if you had the opportunity to go back, would you go back and actually, like, instead of being passive aggressive, would you rather talk to the person face to face?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, definitely, I was definitely a person who would be passive aggressive. It was largely kind of just poor communication skills, just kind of knowing that I wanted something but not knowing how to articulate it to a person. So I felt that I would just kind of, if I just acted bad and with attitude and just in a bad mood around them, put on a tone of voice, and eventually they would just kind of figure it out for themselves, and I wouldn't have to tell them. But it really is just poor communication, and that's something which I've definitely improved upon now, and I wouldn't do now.
But do you think any of those girls picked up on the cue, or did they just?
Some people realize that something is wrong, but they don't know what it is. Some people realize that something's wrong, and then they know what it is, and then they address it. And then some people are just completely oblivious. In fact, and I wouldn't be able to tell you what kind of ratio those things are in. I would suspect that probably a lot fewer people get it than one might think. We might think that it's an effective method of communication, and 80% of people know it. But I reckon only about 10% of people actually pick up on what you're doing. So yeah, it's poor communication doesn't get the message across.
To be honest, I know I'm personalizing it but I am in that category where I can read anything easily. As long as I just come into that room, I just look around and read whatever was being said before they said it and how it was said. Honestly, but as long as the person doesn't say it to my face, I'll act as if I don't know. Trust me, I'm just saying. So if there are other people like me, they will do the same thing. They'll act as if they don't know that you're being passive aggressive. They actually know you're being passive, but they'll act as if they don't know what you're doing, because they expect you to actually come up to them and actually say it. But if you don't say it, the person will be like, okay, do you know what? Since the person doesn't want to come to my face and say it, do you know what? I would rather act as if I don't know what's going on, and then they'll just let it be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think there are people who like you would kind of, they know that there's a problem, and they will just they're not afraid to just ask directly what it is, what the problem is. I think in general, people, certainly in the area where I'm in, a lot more willing to be bold with their statements, and a lot more bold in their communication. So if once it gets to a certain point, they will just be like, what is it that you want? Just tell me what it is. Just tell me what's going on, rather than just continuing with this kind of like tension. It varies from person to person, but I'd say in terms of like percentage wise, there's a higher percentage of people who are over here. There's a higher percentage of people who are willing to just kind of come up to you and just say, what's the deal? What's going on? Be direct.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So moving on from the attitude and the passive aggression, how can you actually compare your experience so far in America, in North Carolina, to whatever you think international students are going through in the UK? How can you actually compare? Or what do you think are the similarities? Is there anything you think that you're going through now, that you think the international students and people who migrated from all over the world into the UK might be going through? What do you think?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like you said, isolation and loneliness is got to be the biggest one. Yeah, finding, even if you finding people that you overlap with is really and make those deep connections with is really difficult. And yeah, you just feel you don't have your family with you, you don't have your friends which you built up over many years. They're not with you. I mean, sure, they're a phone call away, but they're not around you, and yeah, it's very isolating. It can be very, very lonely not having that. But yeah, figuring out life for the first time again, and trying to just not to feel self-conscious and anxious about the fact that you don't know how things work here. I bet you guys really struggle with the idea of just being like, I'm not stupid, I just don't know where to buy this particular good, this particular item. You know, it's just, how would I know? I wasn't born with the knowledge that Asda sells one particular type of carrot and Sainsbury's sells a different type of carrot. Like, how would I know that? But you know, for me, I became kind of like self-conscious. That it's just like, I don't want people to think I'm dumb because I don't know where to buy shoes. No, and people would ask sometimes when I asked.
But that's the thing I really do not understand. When you see people thinking you're dumb for asking questions, I don't really get it, because when I moved to the UK, anybody that knows me would tell you this: I ask a lot of questions. I might even know it, or I like to ask questions. Like, you get another person's perspective. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm dumb, but questions are like, the curious mind is always asking questions. It's normal. But in the UK, I found that when you ask questions, people tend to think like you are dumb or they are smarter than you. I don't really know why, which is not the case, but I don't really know why people think that. So do you think that's why you actually held back, instead of asking more questions, to actually like get to know the people, get to know the culture? Do you think that's why you held back? Like, you don't want people to see you as a dumb person, you don't know what you're doing? Do you think that's why you held back a little bit?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just kind of struggled on my own and kind of figured things out on my own. And, you know, sometimes in life, you got to have a blend of asking questions and figuring things out. There's a formula there for a blend of it. And but during that time, when I first got here, and still even now, I hesitate to ask questions because I don't want to look dumb. And that may be partly because of what you describe in the UK. That's definitely a thing. I do think in the UK, questions tend to be frowned upon a little bit more. It tends to be it feels a little bit more in the UK like if you have to ask a question, there's like, how do you not just know that? Why do you need to ask a clarifying question? If you're watching like a science presentation and someone's giving a lecture and you have to put up your hand and ask for clarification, it sometimes feels like everyone else in the room. And I think the way that people talk and the way that I've heard from other people and kind of the tension that you might feel in the room is, well, how did you not get it? They just explained A leads to B. How do you not get that? But it's not that simple. You're asking a question to clarify. You're asking the question to know more, or sometimes you just didn't get it that time. Like, it's no big deal. But it seems to be on a lot more in the UK than in the US.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't really understand why it is a problem asking questions. I don't really understand why people frown upon that, because people who tend to ask more questions and ask for help are, most of the time, they are people. For example, if you look at Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all, I know we admire them. They are the richest people that are successful. But if you notice, they ask a lot of questions. So if such people ask a lot of questions, then why do we like their questions? That's what I don't get.
You're right. I guess that's just really the difference between the kind of culture which is projected and the reality. I think there's I can't put my finger on it, but there's something somewhere. Maybe it's TV and media, or maybe it's tradition. But there's like traditional values and culture kind of passed down by generation and generation. Maybe it's something like that. But yeah, we've been taught. Certainly, I felt in the UK we've been taught that asking questions means that you're dumb. But yeah, you're right. The reality is quite different. Actually, the curious people, the ones who ask questions, they're the smart ones, and they're the ones that are getting ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because honestly, like, during the PhD, I ended up tutoring and teaching while doing the PhD. So some students, I realized some of them, I had a lot of international students I was teaching at the time, and a lot of them, they raise their hands and they'll be so scared. And I tell them, there's nothing like a stupid question, just ask. If you do not understand, do not understand. It doesn't matter if the other person understands. Don't be scared to ask. Okay, for example, let's say you're explaining something as simple as digestion, and the person doesn't understand. To actually raise his or her hand to actually say, "Oh, I really do not get this," because he or she is scared that people are gonna laugh at him or her. I don't think it's cool. So I actually try as much as possible to give them the opportunity. Man, do you know what? It doesn't really matter what the other person thinks of you. Always ask your question. The person can only laugh at you for a minute or two, and that's it. It doesn't really matter what the person says behind you or whatever. Like, who cares? Just ask your question.
Absolutely.
And I realized the moment I did that and actually reiterated on it, said it over and over again, they became relaxed and they kept on asking their normal questions, whether it is stupid or they don't care. Just ask your question. It's fine. Because if you meet a lot of international students, for example, I'm sure you must have met this, because when people travel all over the world to come to the UK to study, that's the first thing they meet. Trust me, the cultural shock. The way we study in Nigeria is different from the way you guys study in the UK. So the person is going to ask you a lot of. It's normal. And now, if you notice, going back now, can you think through? Do you remember a lot of international students asking you a lot of questions? Because it's normal. They don't. This is like a cultural shock to them. They're trying to learn this. They're trying to learn that. Did you see a lot of people asking you a lot of questions?
Definitely, yeah. I would say that the international students ask more questions than the British home students, and I would notice as well that some of the international students would feel kind of might feel nervous about that and uncomfortable about that, or they might kind of on occasion might apologize or something like that. But on the whole, definitely a lot more questions from the international students. Yeah. And I never really thought too much about it. Now you mention it, it seems like more of a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's not just about cultural thing, because we can liken it to your experience out there in the in North Carolina. Because, for example, let me give an example. When we study in Nigeria, it's different. Then you come to the UK, you have to write a lot of essays. For example, you have to use the internet, you have to use Blackboard, you have to use this, you have to use that, you have to do a lot of presentations, you have to do this. These are not the things we are used to. You see what I mean?
Interesting.
And I'm sure it's the same in America. Maybe there are different softwares you're using out there now that you don't really use in the UK, and you're like, oh my head, how do I get my head around it? Did that happen to you? Something like that. So you're trying to your head around the whole thing. And because of this, you ask questions. All right, you ask questions. I remember I had this student who was doing a master's. So having issues in the lab. So she was so she came to me and she was she kept on asking questions in the lab and for people to explain cell culture to her, and no one did. So she was asking me a question. She came to my office, was asking me, why do we add this? Why do we add trypsin? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And I could understand where she was going, and I knew she wasn't stupid. I knew it's because she's she's an international. She's trying to get why do we really add this? Why do we really add that? This is what I mean. She's trying to wrap her head around the whole thing. So I was trying to explain to her that trypsin is actually it's actually an enzyme, and because the cells, the adherent cells, actually end up sticking to the substance with their protein, which is protein. So that the trypsin will help to cleave the protein and actually get them off the container. When I did that, I was like, okay, now it makes sense in my head. Like, so she was like, why didn't people just explain this to her, like when she was actually in the lab? And that was something I just couldn't understand, why anyone could like just take 5 or 10 minutes to actually explain it to her, because to me it didn't take time for me to do that. So like, did you find it hard for people to, maybe like you're working in a lab and you're struggling with the concept, you're trying to understand how they do this, because I'm guessing like America is more competitive because everything is a capitalist country, I know that. So
yeah,
did you like, when you were trying to do something and you went to one person or two people out there to ask a question, did you find frowning at you or like giving you the cold shoulder and saying, okay, you know what, I'm not going to explain to this guy? Did that happen to you?
You know, not really all that much, but that may be in part as well because of my position as a postdoc rather than as a student. I mean, I guess as a postdoc, I'm still learning. It's still postdoctoral training, but it's certainly in my group as well. My PI supervisor, she encourages a lot of questions, and she, you get told off if you don't ask enough questions. But also she's European, so maybe that's got a little bit of a part of it. But it's on the whole. People haven't frowned upon it too much, but I've certainly found it when I've been mentoring students. They don't want to ask too many questions, and they feel nervous about it. And they know that if they come to me, because I know that they're going to get anxious about the questions. I know that if I want them to get like a full education, I'm going to have to kind of help them and fill in the blanks a little bit. So they know that if they come to me for a question, they're not going to get a short answer. If they come to me and ask me about trypsinizing cells, I'm going to tell them everything about trypsinizing cells all the way through, because I know that it's important and I value their education. Yeah.
but it's actually good that we talked about it, because I think we should actually encourage people to ask questions. I don't really mind. My life is all about asking questions. If I'm being honest, I don't care who you are. I can actually ask you a question. Deep down, I know I might know that more than you. I know you might not be so you might not have so much expertise on the issue, but I will still ask you a question. And when you do that, people think you don't have your life so figured out. But no, asking questions doesn't make you really stupid. It actually means, that's what I think, really. You can actually ask people questions to get their insight, and you'll be like, you don't really necessarily have to do what they told you, but you can actually think about it. Say, okay, you know what? Okay, I like the way this person thinks, but okay, I'm still gonna go ahead with my own way. But it's good for that. No, but it's true. It's good. I agree. Good that, like, I am like that. I won't lie. Like, I like to talk to people deeply to actually know how they think, and how they think matters to me more than what they say.
That's how you make connections.
But you know, because maybe I'm always out there like asking questions. It might, I've had people tell you, man, you're always asking questions. So I'm asking me, because a lot of people don't like asking them questions. I get that as
well. Say that again, sorry.
I said a lot of people don't like people asking them questions as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've talked about questions, is there anything else like you think has made your whole experience out there wholesome, or like it depends on how you want to define it. Is there anything you think has made your wow?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing has been very humbling, and that has been from that comes like a great period of growth. You know, everything just kind of, like I say, everything started from zero again, and having to relearn everything and to really. It was that humility really was a great period of growth for me, emotional growth, intellectual growth, on so many levels, and I think I've become much more richer as a person as a result, and I'm so glad that I've taken this experience. And I never thought that this would happen. I figured that this was just going to be a job. This was going to be a regular thing. I didn't think it'd be that different from life in the UK. You know, things may be different, but I didn't think that I would change as a person. But I see how much I have changed as a person through learning new cultures and new perspectives and new ideas, and through having to kind of stop and take a step back and look at myself and a little bit more and be a lot more self-aware. That has been being able to break down to zero again and rebuild has allowed me to, I feel like come back stronger. That's been fantastic. I feel real good about that. I'm normally like a pretty humble guy, but I feel really good about the growth which I've done through having to start off again and look at myself.
Yeah, now that you just mentioned that, man, I really enjoyed having you in the lab when I actually started, because you were one of the ones I could go to and ask any question. I remember I think I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah,
I'm talking a lot of. I think we even talked about late in the night when we were working in the lab downstairs. We talked about music. We talked about so many things. Like, you are one of those people I could actually walk to and talk about so many things with, and I actually enjoyed talking to you back then, to be fair.
Yeah, for real. I still remember Kekwano Kedu. I remember that.
So, but you used to say it now. So what are you supposed to reply? Kedu. So what are you supposed to reply then? I
said Kedu. It's like Kedu.
Yeah. So no, like, when someone tells you Kedu, so what are you supposed to say?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. But anyway, this is gonna be an assignment. So next time you're on the podcast, you're gonna tell us what the reply is gonna be.
Okay. Okay. I'll look it up.
So this is what we're gonna round off. It's been a lovely time talking to you, Tom.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I said, I always enjoy talking to you. You're one of those people I could actually like just sit and just talk to. We could talk about so many things, and I really enjoyed my time with
you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I hope you have a wonderful time out there in the sun in North Carolina, and maybe next in you're gonna be the next Elon Musk. Who knows?
I wish. We'll see.
You never know. But anyway, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, talk soon. See you later. Bye.